हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू कोड टू एसडी। इस वीडियो में हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे ऑब्जेक्ट क्लास इन जावा। व्हाट इज ऑब्जेक्ट क्लास इन जावा एंड व्हाट आर द वेरियस मेथड्स available in the object class in Java. We'll see each method of the object class practically in much more detail in this video. We'll also discuss various exceptional interview questions which are mostly asked from equals and hashcode methods. So we'll try out the various scenarios in much more detail and you will be clear of all the scenarios. So let's begin. What is this object class? Object class is like a class in Java, which you can say it's a topmost class or the root class of the inheritance hierarchy. So every class in Java extends this object class directly or indirectly by default. You don't need to mention that extend keyword and that the object class name. So again, we will see in the code what do I mean with direct and indirect, extending this object class. Also, when we are not sure about the return type of any object, when we are calling any method and from where the object is coming as a return type, but we are not sure about what is going to be the return type of that object, we can always store that object using this object class reference variable by upcasting. In upcasting, we know that we can always store the child class object with the parent class reference variable. So since every class in Java is a child of this object class, therefore we can store that child class object with the parent class, that is object class reference variable. Later we can downcast it if we need. We will also see in the code that how to override some of the non-final methods of the object class, that is equals and hash code, in the detail. So let's begin with the various methods of the object class. There are various methods in the object class, that is toString, getClass, equals, hash code, clone, wait, notify, and notify all. We'll see some of the important methods like toString, clone, hash code, getClass, and equals in this video. Wait, notify, notify all we will see in the different video when we will discuss multi-threading. In the different track in the different video, we will discuss that. So now let's see the object class in Java. So if I write object, you can see this is in java.language package. And there are various methods like getClass, hash code, equals, clone, toString, and so many. We can call these methods on any object in Java because object is a parent class to every class in Java. Also, we can override if some of the non-final method of the object class like toString and equals method, we will see how we can override, and even clone method which we'll have to override anyway. So let's start with the get class method. To understand that, I'll create one class here. Let's say bank class, and I'll have some instance member in it, say integer ID and string name. I'll generate getter setters for my need. Now I will also generate parameterized and non-parameterized constructor. Right click constructor. I will select both. I will also generate non-parameterized one. Right click generate constructor, select none. Now let's come to test class. Say if I will create one object of bank class, and I can store, any class object with the parent object class reference variable, that is a parent class to every class in Java. So through upcasting, we know that we can store that child class object with the parent class reference variable. Or if there would have been any method which must be returning any object whose type we don't know, we can always store with that object with the parent class. That is the object class reference variable always. So say now of this object obj, I want to get the class name. Then what I can do is I can do obj dot get class. There is a method this is a method of object class, so I can do this, and this will return me what? This will return me class object. It will not return me the object of that bank class, but it will return me the class object. So if I'll print that CLS and run this program, you'll get class bank as output. So if I want to just get the name that is a bank class name, what I can do is I can print CLS dot get name and run the program again. So I'll get only that bank. So this get class is a method of object class, and this get name is a method of class.java. So this usage of get class is to get the metadata of any object. You can call, this is an object class method, so you can call on any object and can get its type, that is class, what is the class and all that metadata. Now let's see the toString method. So I'll comment this code and I'll create one object of bank, say bank v1 is equal to new bank. And I'll give ID as 101 and say name as RBI Bank. Now if I'll do v1 dot get name, I know what is going to be the output. It's going to be RBI Bank, right? Because I'm printing that name. Let's run the program. Yeah, it's RBI Bank. But what if we'll just print that v1 dot only v1, that is the reference variable. It is giving me some output as bank at the rate and some hexadecimal value. Let's run one more thing, that is v1 dot toString method. I'll comment this part. So now let's run this. You'll see both output are same. v1 when we were printing reference variable or we are calling the toString method of object class, both are same. And even if you can see here that ID is giving that warning that this is redundant basically. So even if you don't write it, you just write reference variable, Java compiler internally calls the toString method. So this is redundant. We can simply write on print that reference variable. It will internally call that toString method of object class, and the toString method of object class, which we are like, if you see here, this toString method, this was returning that class name, that is bank, then at the rate, and then hexadecimal value of the hash code. So this is a hexadecimal representation of hash code. Now you must have one question in your mind, what is this hash code? So every object in Java is stored in the memory, and that memory address, Java compiler internally converts into some integer value, which it calls hash code. It converts that memory address using some algorithm, and so then that integer value which is generated is a hash code, which it uses to store the object in the collection, which of a hash set or hash map. So as of now, you can understand that it is an integer value. So here it is a hexadecimal representation of that integer value, the hash code. So class name at the rate and that hash code integer value hexadecimal representation. So that is what toString is returning as a string output. So what if we see, if this is not a final method, that means we can override toString method always in a class. So let's override that toString method in a class. So what I can do is I can always generate the better representation of toString from ID. So if I'll right click, select toString, select both, what it do is this toString method is basically, it means that whatever you want to print as a string representation for that object. So what we want is, like, if we have some instance member, we want the class name, then instance member values. So that ID generates in the better way. So we can always prefer to generate that toString method using ID. Now let's try to run the program and see what is going to be output. So now it is not calling the toString method of object class because we have overridden in our class, and it is calling the toString method of bank class. So that we are getting bank and that instance member values, right? So now uh, let's try to create one more class here. Say ICICI, and it will be extending that bank class. So it will also have access to that instance members of the bank class, right? Now I'll try to create one object here of that ICICI. And we'll try to print its reference variable. Now let's see what is going to be the output. So since we have not set the instance member variable for this ICICI, so value is null, but you can see that it is calling the toString method of that bank class. It's not calling the toString method of object class, though we have not overridden here, because I told you that every class in Java directly or indirectly extend that object class. So bank class was not extending any class, so it was directly extending the object class. So if in bank class we were not overriding this toString method, we were saying that the toString method of the object class was getting called. But here in ICICI, it is extending bank class. So even if we don't override here toString method, what will happen that whenever we'll call, whenever we will print that reference variable or will call that toString method, Java compiler will look into the immediate parent class of that ICICI class, that is the bank class. If in that we have that toString method overridden, then that particular toString method will be invoked. So this ICICI is not directly extending that object class, but indirectly. So let's say comment this toString method implementation in bank class and now run the program. So now it did not find toString method in its immediate parent class. So you can see even for bank and even for this ICICI, it is calling toString method directly of the object class. So we have seen how we can use toString method of the object class, how we can override it and the various scenario. So toString basically represent the object in the string representation with its instance member values, and you can also give your own implementation, and you can also generate the toString implementation using the IDE. So now let's see hash code. So I'll comment this piece of code and I'll create that bank object again, say 101 and RBI bank. I will also create one more object with the same values, that is v2. But the instance member variable values I have set the same. Now I'll try to print the hash code for both of these objects, v1 dot hash code and v2 dot hash code. Hash code, I already told you that it is some integer value which Java compiler generates for every object using the memory address. It is not the memory address, but the integer value which it generates using the memory address using some algorithm. So the thing about hash code is that it is same for every uh, same objects, and if the objects are different, the hash code will be different. So it is a unique for every object basically. So here we know that we are creating two object using the new keyword. So every time we create an object using new keyword, it is different. So v1 and v2 are the two different object in the different memory address. So their hash code should be different. But let's try to run the program and see. Yes, their hash code is different. So that was expected. But Now, since these two objects are having the same values, but their hash code is different. That is correct because they are stored in the different memory location. Now, what if we do like bank B3 is equal to B2? Here, B3 and B2 are the two different reference variable, but they are pointing to the same object which is created using this new keyword. So, what do you think this the hash code should be same or different? The hash code should be same, right? If the two objects are same, or they are it means they are pointing to the same object. No matter they are different reference variable, their hash code should be same. So now let's try to run the program. You will see that B2 and B3 hash code is same and B1 is different. So if you create an object using new keyword, the object which is going to be created is different and its hash code will also be different. But if you assign it to a different reference variable, that new reference variable basically will point to that same object and it will have the same hash code. Now we'll again come back to hash code after discussing equals method, but let's discuss first equals method. So in equals method, see v1 and v2 we created two objects and with the same values we created, but they are different as the hash code is different. But let's try to check that using equals method. So I will say v1 dot equals v2. This I'll try to check, and this equals method is equals method of a object class. Don't get confused with the equals method of the string class. This is equals method of the object class. So I will just check all the combination v1 equal to b2, v1 equal to b3, and b2 equal to b3. Now, since we know that equals object has equal hash code and different object have different hash code, so we know that v2 and v3 are same. So this should be true and this should be false, right? Let's run this program. Yes. So b1 is not equal to b2 and b1 is also not equal to b3, but b2 and b3 are same object, so it is equal. And even if we click on this equals, you will see it is comparing with the reference, values, and also if the reference is same. It is not comparing only value, it is comparing the reference also. Reference, if they are pointing to the same object or not, right? So, but this is not a final method. So what if we want to override this method and want to give our own implementation of the equals method? We can always do that. So let's override the equals method here. So I can override it by, I can give him my implementation, that is, I have to check ID and name here. So I'll say this dot get ID. If it is equal to that obj, first I'll have to typecast to equal class to make the comparison on it. And then I can say get ID. Also, I'll have to check this dot get name. Since get name is a string only, it's returning a string only, I can call equals on it and check obj dot get name, right? So this will this I have overridden my equals method of that object class to give my own implementation, that if ID and name are equal for any object, then return true, else return false. So if here we have created v1 v2 whose ID and name are exactly same, and even v3 which is already same as v2. So in all the cases, let's see what's gonna be our hash code, and this should be anyway true as we have given our own implementation. So when we run this program, we will see now they are getting considered equal, because earlier they were logically equal, but yes, Java compiler was checking for references. We have given our own implementation to not check for reference, only check for the values. If they are same, return true. So equals method is working as per what we wanted. Hash code is still Java compiler. It is generating different if the object reference is different. You can see that v2 and v3 are same, but v1 is different. So this is okay because we have not given our own implementation for hash code and we have given our implementation for equals. But in Java, there is a contract between the equals and hash code method that if the two objects are equal, then their hash code must be equal. So if the two objects are different, then their hash code must be different. So if you are only overriding equals method but not overriding hash code, then you can see in this case that hash code is different, but equal method is giving different output, that object are same but the hash code is still different. So your hashing collection may not work properly. So in Java, it is recommended that whenever you override equals method, you must override hash code method also, in the same way that if whatever condition you are giving an equals method for the two object to be equal, and so in the same way you have to keep in mind uh, while overriding the hash code implementation also, that if the two objects are coming equal, then the hash code must also be equal in that condition, else it should be different. So in my scenario, you can see I have overridden equals method, so I will also override here hash code method, and I'm comparing id and name. So if id and name are same, then object is same. If they are different, then object is different. So what I'll do is, I know id will be unique mainly here in this case. If it is here, I'm considering id is unique. Also, it is an integer, so I can use it to return id here from this hash code method. If you don't have any primary key, you can create one primary key in your object when you want to override hash code methods. Right now, I'm considering that id is unique for every object, and we are also here checking for id if it is same in equals method or not. So now this should work fine. So if your object is same, it is having same id and same name, and that case will be returning same id for hash code also. If it is different, it will return different. So now let's try to go to test class and run the program again. So yeah, we will see that logically now all three objects are same. So equals method is also giving same that true output, and also hash code is same. So if you make say now if you make v2 object different id, now you try to run program, you will see that b1 is not equal to b2 because id is changed, but and also b1 will not be equal to b3 because the id will be changed, and b2 b3 will always be equal, right? So b2 b3 hash code will also be same, but b1 b2 hash code will be different, which is id. So that's why we say that return primary key. Here you can see if the primary key would have been same, then the object would have been same, and equal from equals we will also get true, and from hash code also will get the same value as output. So now you have understood that in an interview it is mainly asked whether there is a need to override hash code method when we override equals method. Yes, it is always recommended to override the hash code method if you have overridden equals method of a object class to maintain the contract between the equals and hash code method. Now let's see one more method, that is a cloning method. So we have v1 object. If we want to clone uh, the bank object, that is b1, what we can do is we can call the clone method of our object class, but there are some condition to call the clone method of on any object. We will have to go on that class and implement one marker interface, that is a clonable interface. So this clonable interface, if you'll see, it has no methods, so it is a marker interface. It just marks this class or that it has now ability that its object can be cloned. But one more condition will be there, that it will have to override the clone method of the object class. But so you'll have to do two things. If you want to clone object of any class, you will have to implement one clonable interface. Also, you will have to override the clone method of object class. So I have overwritten this clone method of object class. I have just said that return the parent object. So it will return the object type here. Now I will go to test class. Say on now B1, I want to clone. I want to clone this B1 object of the bank. So I'll say B1 dot clone, and it will return me object class, object. But yeah, I can typecast it to my required type. Say I'm going to typecast it to bank, and I'm going to store it with the reference variable, say bank P4. Now what I'll do is I'll try to print this the reference variable. Before that, I'll just try to make difference. I'll just print some hyphens. Now I'll try to print. Now here you will have to do two things. So whenever you are overriding this clone method, there may come exception, that is a clone not supported exception, if you have not overridden that clone method or if you have not implemented that clonable interface. So you'll have to always handle that exception. So I've added that in the method signature for now. Similarly, here also you can see this. You'll have to handle this exception wherever you will override this clone method. Now come to test class. I'm going to print. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if B1 now equals B4 or not. I'm also going to check. So right now we have overridden some condition, like if you see that overridden this equals. Let's try to comment this first and see the default behavior. B1 equal to B4 or not. Or also I'll try to print B4. Now run this. So below this hyphen you will see this is that object class toString method is getting called, because here we have commented that toString method. Also, when I'm comparing that if V1 is equal to B4, the default behavior, yes, no, it is returning me false. So B4 is a different object. So whenever you create an object using cloning method, it always creates a different object in a memory. It does not create the same. So let's say if we have now this equals and hash code method overridden in the bank class. Now we have cloned the B4, so it will also have the same instance member variables. Now let's try to run this program again. You'll see that V1 is equal to B4. Also, if you try to see I will try to print this hash code B4 dot hash code. It will be same as of B1. For B1 it is 101, and here also it is 101. That means if we have overridden equals method as per a condition, then it will work, but we'll have to override hash code also. So to maintain the contract between the equals and hash code method. Now this scenario is mostly asked in an interview, and students get confused if they have not tried this scenario. So I will recommend you to try this yourself in an IDE, then you'll have a more understanding of it. So if you have not understood any part of it, please revisit this video and try it out on yourself in an IDE. If you have liked the video, please do like, share, subscribe this channel for more videos. मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में एक नए कॉन्सेप्ट के साथ, तब तक के लिए बाय, थैंक यू।